The Kraken were the better team in Game 1, although Pavelski tried to single-handedly steal it from them, they still managed to win it in the end. In Game 2, the rest of his team decided to show up, meanwhile the Kraken, well, they did look like a team that has been playing playoff hockey now every other day for 2.5 weeks. What's cracking, everybody, and welcome back to Kraken R&R, where, although the Kraken are undefeated in first games of playoff series, they still have yet to win a second game, as just like the Avalanche series, this one is a split on the road, with the Kraken winning Game 1 and the Stars winning here in Game 2, 4-2. The good news, at least for Seattle, is that they do now get that extra day off, which they didn't get at all in the first series against the Avalanche, with both Friday and Saturday off before Game 3 at home in Seattle on Sunday. Which, although I know none of them would admit to it, based on how they played the second and third periods of Game 2, seems like something that is very much needed to help them get their legs back under them, as well as, hopefully, and honestly, we probably still will have absolutely no idea until morning skate before Game 3, or maybe even game time of Game 3, give them a chance to get Jared McCann back. Now, I say just the second and third period, but honestly, even the first period, Dallas, I would say, had the slight edge, although the Kraken defensively were up to the task, really not allowing the Stars to get anything to the inside, and although by the end of the period, the Stars were out shooting the Kraken 2-1, I think the shots were 11-5 going into the second period, it was a pretty even first period, and the Kraken, with Philip Grubauer's help, managed to get to the end of one, with the score still tied at 0. Also getting through the first power play for the Stars, when Soucy, towards the end of that first period, put the puck over the glass with nobody around him. So they got through that one, and the penalty kill remained hot, right up until the start of the second period, where, I mean, to be fair to the penalty kill, well, actually, one, it turns out not to be a goal that the penalty kill lets up here, as it's just after the guy comes out of the box. But also, the Kraken should have never been on the kill in the first place. But of course, less than 2 minutes into the second period, it's Soucy again for the Kraken, and Marchment for the Stars, who were kind of going back and forth with each other throughout the Kraken end of the ice. Soucy laid a hit, then Marchment cross-checks Soucy, Soucy cross-checks Marchment, and eventually, the puck ends up going from one corner to the other past both of them, and Soucy, as Marchment's trying to pass him, kind of just gives a little shoulder shove to Marchment, who then just looks like he gets shot in the head as he just flops backwards onto the ice, throwing his hands in the air and looking around for a call, which he manages to draw. Soucy gets called for interference, and eventually the officials decide to come together and correctly get Marchment for embellishment. But then, because I guess they decided they wanted to make sure that the Stars got a power play, because there's really nothing else to explain for it, they give Soucy a second call. Now, although it wasn't caught on camera, it does kind of look like Soucy came up and gave Marchment a poke as he was yelling at him for embellishing, which he did. That having been said, all of that happens before the officials come together and call anything. So, although the original call was going to be interference on Soucy, the officials are now coming together because they have correctly recognized that Marchment made a fool of them as Soucy barely touched him, and then he did his best, I don't know, tryout for the MLS as he flopped around on the ice like a fish. And then, yeah, Soucy probably does deserve to get something for the extra poke after the fact, but it wouldn't be beyond what we've seen before from officials to basically let the interference go and get Marchment for the embellishment, and then give Soucy the matching for his extra poke after the fact. Instead, though, even though Marchment clearly flopped here, and that's the only reason there was going to be an original call in the first place, they still give Soucy the interference. So Soucy ends up with 2 calls against him, Marchment just the 1, and the Stars end up with a power play that they should never have had if the officials didn't just galaxy brain their way into giving the Stars a free power play. And, of course, it's this bogus power play that the Stars get their first power play goal on of the series. Okay, again, it wasn't technically a power play goal, as Sprong is out of the box when they end up scoring here, but it's effectively one, as before Sprong can get into the play, the shot goes off on Grubauer, he makes the save, but the rebound happens to go right to Wyatt Johnson, who then pokes it right through the 5-hole as Grubauer tries to get back for the rebound save, and the Stars are up 1-0, once again scoring first, as the Kraken have, I guess, had it turned on their head as far as scoring first in games goes. So yes, Dallas did earn this goal, but they also get it on what's effectively still a power play that they never should have had in the first place if the officials had any clue what they were doing. Either way, The Kraken are down 1-0, and now we'll have to figure out how to come back again. Unfortunately, however, this goal does kind of seem to break that dam of momentum for the Stars that really seemed like it had been building throughout the first period and early part of the second, that the Kraken had been holding back and doing their best defensively to stop from getting out of control. As soon as the Stars get this first one, over the next few minutes, they are pressing and pressing hard to make it 2-0, and eventually they're able to do so as Dodonov gets a rush chance getting through the Kraken defense. And then Grubauer again, he really has not made very many mistakes. I can only really think of two now, this being one of them. Big mistakes throughout this entire playoff run for the Kraken so far. But he goes way too far out of the net to try to shut off attempt at the corner of the net from Dodonov, as he wraps one of his legs around the side of the net with the other one on the inside. But then when Dodonov doesn't go for the shot because he recognizes he has no chance at one, Grubauer then is stuck on that side of the net when Dodonov decides to just wrap it around the other side, and he puts it in the net to make it 2-0, with Grubauer having given himself no chance to get back to the other side. That one does really hurt the Kraken chances of coming back to win this game and take the 2-0 series lead, because while it is still just a 2-goal lead for the Stars and we're less than halfway through, this game has been much more what we expected coming into the series, with both teams playing pretty shut down defense, really not allowing much as far as shots on goal. Well, the Kraken were actually allowing a fair number of shots on goal, but neither team really allowing that much as far as dangerous attempts are concerned. And Ottinger has had no problem making every save at that end of the ice. So for the Kraken to find a way through all of that to score twice did seem, at least at this point, like it was going to be a pretty hard task for them to accomplish. And it's also not helped out by the fact that the Kraken couldn't win a faceoff to save their lives, so the Stars are right back into the offensive end off the faceoff with that 2-0 lead. But then, not long after, right back down the ice, Dunn releases Cartier on a rush chance. Cartier skates in and from the high faceoff circle, fires off the shot and beats Ottinger over the blocker and into the top corner of the net to give Cartier his second goal in the NHL in 5 playoff games, having not played a regular season game to this point. He puts the Kraken on the board and gets them back to within 1. And wouldn't you know it, this goal from Cartier also seems to have woken up the Kraken bench, as all of a sudden they've got momentum on their side really for the first time this game, getting I think at 1.5 consecutive shots off on net, which had been pretty hard for them to come by, again with just 5 in the entire first period and not many up to this point in the second period. However, they aren't able to get a second one to even things up. And eventually, Dallas is able to re-even things up as far as the flow of play is concerned and lock things back down defensively. Eventually, getting another power play late here in the second period, which this one, Borgen absolutely earns his trip to the box with a little bit too much of a physical play against Dodonov behind the net, catching him up high and throwing him to the ice with what was essentially a hook around his shoulders. And this time, the Stars do end up cashing in on the power play itself as Wyatt Johnson makes a power move towards the net. Grubauer makes the save, but of course the rebound off his pad goes right back to Johnson, who gets another shot off. Grubauer makes that save as well, but once again, of course, the bounce goes right through 2 Kraken players to Joe Pavelski, who crashes towards the net and puts the third attempt in past Grubauer to make it 3-1 late here in the second. And although the Kraken would make a modest press towards the other end towards the end of the second period, they're not able to score, and we go into the third with the Stars leading by 2, which, as we saw in game 1, isn't necessarily a death sentence. The Stars came back from down 2 in the third to force overtime. They still lost, but they managed to come back from down 2, and earlier in game 1 we saw the Kraken score 3 goals in 52 seconds, so we know that they can put them up in a hurry against this team. Still, with this being a Stars team that's capable of playing as well defensively as they had through most of this game, as well as having a goaltender that's as capable of shutting a team down as Ottinger had, again, through most of this game, it's really not the position you want to be putting yourself in to have a multi-goal comeback in the last 20 minutes. And then the Kraken really can't even get anything going through the first 5 or 6 minutes, and eventually it's the Stars who get the first real good attempt on the Kraken net, which Grubauer is fortunately able to shut down. And then shut down, and then shut down again, and then shut down again, as it's the Stars who are the ones getting momentum when the Kraken are the ones that need it. The Stars playing defense first, but they're still getting shot after shot on Grubauer, who makes save after save. But of course, with the Kraken being the team that likes to score on the rush that they are, all of a sudden, with a flip of a switch, they're right back down the other way with momentum of their own, getting shot after shot on Ottinger. And eventually, it's a beautiful pass from, if I remember right, Beniers behind the net out to the other side. Soucy's got Ottinger dead to rights, fires off the shot, one-times it, and Ottinger makes a spectacular diving from one side of the net to the other, pad save as it goes off the corner of his pad and then hits the crossbar and stays out, absolutely robbing Soucy of a goal that would have gotten the Kraken back to within 2. And who knows from there if the Kraken are able to build momentum off of it and get back into this game. But with this save, the Stars are able to kind of weather the storm and even things back out for the next few minutes. And then back at the other end of the ice, eventually the Kraken futility at winning faceoffs in this game, only winning 20-44 won for the Stars. It ends up costing them as the Stars win a faceoff. It gets out to the other side. A shot is taken off on net, and originally I thought this was just a soft goal that Grubauer let up, but it is tipped in front by Seguin. Ends up bouncing through the 5-hole of Grubauer as he thought he was going to be making a save and getting a freeze, but instead it's deflected down at the ice and goes right between his legs into the back of the net. So yeah, it's tough because it's a 5-hole one, but it's another tip in front of the net, so not really on Grubauer, I'd say here. Either way, it's now 4-1 Stars, and feeling like it's kind of over. And if it didn't feel like it was over when the 4th goal went in for the Stars, it certainly felt like it was over when the Kraken finally get their first power play of the game shortly after, and then promptly do nothing whatsoever with it, which then, with just a few minutes left in the game, really was their last chance. Although, shortly after, actually, the Kraken back at 5-on-5. Of course, this is where they're going to find success. It's Eberle who pretty much just goes coast to coast. I mean, not quite. He gets the puck at the Kraken blue line, but then just skates it all the way in, gets around Miro Heiskanen, fires off the shot, and just makes Ottinger look kind of silly, putting it over the blocker and into the top corner from a tight angle next to the net. Ottinger not able to close off that side of it, and the Kraken are back to within 2 with still 3 minutes left, so it's an uphill battle, but not an impossible one to climb. But even with 6-on-5 for almost 3 minutes, they're not able to find the back of the net again, so the Stars do hang on for the 4-2 win, and even up the series at 1, coming back to Seattle. So, in the end with this game, honestly, I kind of think it just comes down to a case of the Stars finally getting to playing the style of game we were expecting to see from them really throughout this series, and didn't see a ton of in Game 1, especially not in the first period, maybe a bit in the second and third here and there. But that first period, the Stars really allowed the Kraken to open up the ice and get things going on the rush offensively, getting those 4 goals out of it. And although they slowed it down a bit in the second and third, still were giving up a ton of shots on goal. Again, the Kraken end up with 44, which was 13 more than they had in any of the 3 games in the regular season, which did feature 2 overtime games. But in this game, the Stars definitely got back to more of that defense first mentality, locking things down in their end and really not allowing a ton of chances, which allows then Ottinger to do his thing behind that defense, only allowing 27 shots for the Kraken. Meanwhile, at the other end, although the Kraken managed to weather the storm and do a fair job of keeping it to the outside, at least through the first period, the 37 shots for the Stars and a couple of tips and rebound opportunities around the net on those power plays does end up coming back to bite the Kraken, just allowing too much traffic in front of the net on the power play, and then another tip in, even if it wasn't Pavelski. So yeah, the Kraken, I think, were kind of on their heels in that second and third period, and after having played playoff hockey every other day for, again, 2.5 weeks now, 9 games, I think it's somewhat understandable. Of course, the only winning 20 of 64 faceoffs over the course of the game certainly didn't help anything either for the Kraken, and did eventually lead to that 4th goal almost directly, but we kind of expected that coming in, and it's something the Kraken are just going to have to figure a way to fight through. Beyond that, I really don't know what else there is to take away from this game. Yeah, the officiating certainly wasn't great and was definitely leaned towards the Stars, as they got the 3 power plays when it actually mattered during the game, and the one that, again, was just the officials basically making things up to make sure the Stars got a power play out of it, that they ended up scoring right after it came to an end, which was the first goal of the game. And the Kraken only get the 1 power play when we're pretty much getting close to garbage time after the Stars have already made it 4-1 late in the third. Even with that having been said, officiating, while it made a difference, did not make the difference in this game, and ultimately the team that played better in this game really throughout it ended up winning, so I don't think you can blame the officiating too much, especially when it was, again, not the most inspired performance from the Kraken throughout this game, outside of a couple windows of a few minutes here and there where they were able to really look like the team that we've seen for most of this season and even postseason to this point. Hopefully, the extra day off will give the Kraken a chance to get those legs back under them as they have these 2 games at home, which it's very important for them to get at least one of. Hopefully, they can get 2 with a chance to eliminate the Stars in Game 5 at home. We'll just have to wait and see as far as that's concerned. Before we close this one out, though, and move on to those home games on Sunday and Tuesday, we do have the Kraken 3 Stars where I can get 2 stars for sure. The first star, and this isn't just because it's oh, look at him filling in for McCann. Ty Cartier was clearly the best Kraken player in this game, not only getting the goal, but he had a number of good plays throughout the neutral zone, which the Kraken really didn't have a ton of in this game. The Stars getting through the neutral zone without too much effort, and the Kraken having a hard time getting through it. Also laying a couple big hits, and yeah, obviously the goal that brought the Kraken back to within 1 does have a big impact. So, well, again, we're definitely looking forward to McCann's hopeful return sooner rather than later. At the very least, Cartier has filled in pretty well for him, and definitely not made that just a dead spot on what is supposed to be the first line for the Kraken. And with Cartier and Eberle scoring in this game, it is that first line that produces both the Kraken goals. Speaking of whom, Eberle is my second star in this game. Again, he has the second goal for the Kraken, which was basically a one-man show from one end of the ice to the other. And also had a couple of other plays that he created, one with Matty Beniers on a 2-on-1 that, honestly, I really probably should have just taken the shot in the first place instead of trying to force a pass through to Beniers. That pass didn't get through, and Eberle still managed to get a shot off. It was saved, obviously, because that would have made it 1-0 Kraken, and that never happened. But really, Eberle, I thought, put on a pretty good effort, especially where there was not a ton of great efforts throughout the course of the game from the Kraken. Beyond those two, honestly, there's really not another guy that sticks out to me in any particular way as having had a great game, or even really a good game for that matter. Schultz was decent defensively. Alexiak, I felt, had some good moments as well in the defensive end, but neither one of them, I mean, they both kind of just disappeared once you hit center ice. And yeah, I mean, Grubauer was good at times, but he made a terrible mistake on the second Dallas goal. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm just going to stick with the 2. We'll go Cartier 1 and Eberle 2. Really, no one else had a good enough game where I feel like a star is particularly worth giving out. So, yeah, I guess we'll hope for better in Game 3 and a hopefully first ever franchise win in a Game 3 in the playoffs, as they did go down 2-1 to Colorado and still came back to even up the series and then take the lead in Game 5. So I guess worst case scenario in Game 3, the Kraken will have been there before going into a Game 4. Still, you really don't want Game 4 to be a must-win. That would kind of be where you're at that point. Anyway, let me know what you think down in the comment section below about this game, if you can think of a third star to hand out. Otherwise, see you in a few days. 2 days off for the Kraken, and back again on Sunday. The next R&R, obviously, the Monday after that. Until then, if you made it to this point, thank you very much for watching. If you did join for the stream, thank you for joining for that as well. If you liked or enjoyed it, there are buttons for that kind of stuff down below to help support the channel, so I'd appreciate using them. And until Game 3, stay safe out there, be good to each other, God bless, and go Kraken!